I send her a message, right? And I notice that when I log back in, her picture changes, she updates her status, and I still don't have a reply, it's a wrap. So you gotta just charge into the game because the problem will be, especially if she's in your circle, if you guys know the same people, if you send her a message, she doesn't reply, and you send another one, she doesn't reply, she'll probably most likely tell her friends. You know what I mean? And you don't want the word to go around that way as well. And plus, it's a pride thing. You want to, and it happens. It's normal. Sometimes someone might not be feeling your swag. Sometimes they might have a dude. Sometimes they just want the attention. They sometimes people just want to feel appreciated. So I wouldn't sweat it. Just let it go. You know what I mean? So now it also depends, right? Laughing said you came off thirsty, right? See, the thing is, now what are you saying to a female in the first message? Like she added you, what kind of thing did you say, Carlo? Girls are like buses, miss one, next 15 one come exactly. Chris says, what about guys that are in your inbox but don't accept a friend request? So, Crystal, you're talking about if a guy sends you a message, but then you send him a friend request and he doesn't accept it? Is that what you're saying, Chris? Okay. So, all right. So, if a guy sends you now, what is he sending to you? Is he sending you a question about Canada, or is he expressing interest? Like, what is he saying? And Carlos says, use the inflate deflate. All right, good. And inflate deflate is actually a technique I talk about in my space to my place, where especially if you have a very attractive woman, you don't want to necessarily come off like you're super super thirsty. So a good way to do that is a technique I call the inflate deflate, where you say something and kind of knock her off her high horse, but you say it kind of in humor, but it kind of gets her to thinking, this guy, he has some swag. He's not kissing my ass, but he's not being an asshole either. He's kind of in between, and it kind of gets females to wonder about you. So that's some free game for you if you don't have the book yet. But yeah, that's a good technique. It's a good technique, especially if she's very attractive. If she has a lot of dudes, on her jock. You know what I mean? All right. It's ironic. A chick from T Dot hit me with that. See? Yup. These Toronto chicks, man. Women out. Yeah, you gotta make them want you. Don't make them think that you want them too much. Yeah, I mean that's true. You know what I'm saying? I mean, unfortunately, I mean that's the way it is. I mean, it is a dating game, but see, at the end of the day, you want to be about integrity. Initially, when you're meeting people, people have all kinds of walls up. The whole goal, whether you're a male or female, is to do it correctly. You have to break through all that. Once you break through and people recognize you for being who you are, then you know things are pretty much smooth sailing from there. But you have to start off on the right foot. If you start off on the right foot, then you can pretty much coast from there. You know what I mean? So, like for instance, a while ago, like when I first started up my Twitter account, um, the way I got my first few hundred followers was I used to always tweet about um, things that you should do when you first get together with someone. Like when you first get together with someone, whether you guys are dating or whether it's like a physical thing, is you want to like establish a precedent. You want to make sure you start off the relationship like in a really smooth manner. So for instance, you're out on your first date and you're sitting across from a female and she might say something disrespectful, or she'll say something like, well, you're paying for this, right? Like the moment something like that happens, and it goes both ways. It could go if you're a female and there's a guy and he's testing you. Whenever you have tests, the best way to handle a test is to address it immediately. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. Because I know some of you guys who are familiar with Tariq Nasheed, he has the 7 levels of disrespect. If you, for instance, have like a little sideways comment or diss, and if you let that go, then it'll go up to the next level of disrespect. The next one might be, public embarrassment. The next one might be, them messing up your property. You want to stop everything at the bottom level because, for instance, like one of my last exes, um, she was a type of person I wouldn't necessarily have to worry about random guys coming up to her and her not knowing what to do because she was the type of female like with every other guy except for me, she was a right? She was an ass. But when she dealt with me, it was cool because initially when she gave me that attitude, I was like, you're not gonna talk to me like that. So, that's not cool. You know what I mean? So yeah, so I see you. So laugh pretty good crack says, yeah, you gotta make them want you. Yeah, okay, that was a little bit up there. But what if they call you a tight ass or someone with no sense of humor? You got to play it off. If you know, first of all, check this out. If you know what you're saying is genuine, and if you know that that your that your swag is on point, you don't have to worry about what they're saying because sometimes people talk, and this is more for my fellas. Now, if you're out on a date with a female, for the most part, and I don't know if you ladies realize this or what, but fellas, when you're out on a date with a female, they're kind of looking to you for reassurance. So if you're, and this is with any situation. If you're on the phone, same thing. If you're nervous, like, you think you might maybe want to go out with me on Thursday, you never ask. And I say this in my books. When you want to bring a female from the internet to the phone and then from the phone to a first date, at no point in time are you asking. I'm not saying be an asshole and be like, call me right now. But you want to invite her. You want to already make it seem like she wants to get with you. Not really cocky, but you want to be confident. So for instance, if you're on the phone with a female and you're asking her out, you want to be like, listen, let's, on Friday, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to be in your area. Let's kick it at X, Y, and Z. And you might want to give her an option. Let's kick it at X, Y, and Z. You prefer 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock. You know what I mean? That way she feels like she's making a choice, but at the same time, you're not asking. You don't sound like you're in a subservient position. Because what a lot of ladies don't realize or they don't get, or maybe it's hard to empathize, but as a dude, it's incumbent upon us, although you guys, ladies, make the first move, ladies choose, it's up to the guy to say, hey, let's kick it. Let's go. What's going on? It's up to the guy to make the first physical approach. You know what I mean? So, right. You got to have her on your team. So, I see more guests in the room. So, guests, look, you can register, but if you want to lurk, that's cool. All right. So, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go into. Do I have another clip here? Hold on. I might have a new clip. All right, check this out. Let me see. This should work. Oh, no, didn't work. Darn. All right, screw the clip. Screw the clip. I actually had part 2 of my British invasion clip, but it wants to act up. So, all right. So, cool. So, I see, let me refresh the little joint. All right. So, I see J-Rock. I see you, J-Rock. All right. I see Originalism, Shilly, Sneak. These are some of the new folks. Young Suave. I'm sorry I didn't call you up before, Young Suave. So, man. So listen, y'all. Listen, I don't know if y'all been following me on Twitter. I'm Flyness at Twitter. I was in Times Square today. Times Square. I actually did a promo shoot today. So we had a lovely young lady, one of the Flyness models, and we were doing an outdoor shoot. And while I was in Times Square, I came across a woman. I was actually exchanging. I actually had some leftover money from Canada, so I went to like the little foreign exchange place where you can exchange your money. And I asked this woman. She said, "Oh yeah, where did you go? How did you get the Canadian $5 bill?" I was like, oh, "Okay, well, I went up to Canada for a promotional photo shoot. We were doing it. It was real big." And she proceeded to tell me, she was like, "Oh, well, are you West Indian? Are you? Why did you go up for Caravana? Because why did you choose that weekend?" I was like, "Well, no, I'm not West Indian, but it's nice to be around there because being black, a lot of the traditions are the same. Plus, I go to West Indian parties sometimes. It's cool." And I looked at her. I was like, "What's wrong with that?" She was like, "Oh, well, I wouldn't go." I'm like, "Why not?" She was like, "Well, because it's not my culture." And I said, "Well, where are you from?" She was like, "Oh, well, I'm Ghanaian." I'm like, "Well, a lot of the music," and this is how the whole conversation started. I was like, "Listen, a lot of the music actually comes from, like the Zouk music. A lot of Haitian, French Creole people listen to that. A lot of the music that comes from West Africa, um, kind of morphed into, Caribbean dancehall reggae, and I ended up having to give her like a whole history lesson, man. I was telling her about the transatlantic slave trade and everything else, so she kind of, didn't really agree with me on a lot of that stuff, but it was a pretty interesting conversation. But I had an interesting time in Times Square though. I filmed this model. She did good. We didn't do anything with the books, but I do have Flyness models going on. So if there are any ladies in the room, by the way, if you're interested in getting into any photo shoots, you can check out flynessmodels.com and get your model on. You know what I mean? So Men's Health said Birmingham is the fifth hardest city to get laid in. Now, pretty good crack. You're in there. Now, yeah, why is it so hard in Birmingham? I'm trying to think. No, I've never been to Alabama. I lived in Atlanta for 3.5 years, but I never went to Alabama. I probably went outside of 285 like maybe 2 or 3 times. And for those of you who don't know, Atlanta, unlike New York, where the city limits are pretty finite, you can tell when you're in New York, you can tell when you aren't. Um, in southern cities, especially Atlanta, the city, I mean, there's a city of Atlanta, but the outer limits of Atlanta are really wide, and everything is pretty much inside of this circle called 285, and that pretty much runs around Atlanta. I don't know how long 285 is, but it's crazy. When am I coming to England? Shilly, I don't think Ola's in the room. Ola is actually planning a tour between myself and Taz. Matter of fact, this is also brought to you by the Make It Happen tour. We're doing a tour coming. We're gonna start probably late September, early October. We're gonna go all over the place, and England is one of the stops. So Shilly, you need to take me around, show me what I heard. Listen, and y'all can tell me if it's true. Chili, my homeboys were telling me that they have a lot of the food out there is really bland. Is that true? Am I gonna have to bring some seasoned salt out there? Because I was hearing it was a little, the food was a little bland, a little dry. Am I gonna have to, bring some seasonings with me? I just heard it was a little. No.